Focus now is what are the strike options in front of the president, because these 2 weeks do give him time. Turn to Brigadier General John Teichert, U.S. Air Force retired, and retired Navy SEAL sniper Jack Carr. The general is with us. Jack on remote. Gentlemen, good to see you. I want to start with you, General, here. You think about all of the naval assets plus F-22s, F-16s, F-15s, strategic refuelers. It feels as though the Pentagon is planning for a lot more than just a B-2 flying over, dropping 2 bunker busters and going home.
Leland, I think the posture is giving the president options. The laydown here on the land, in the air, and on the sea is providing the president the options whether he wants to drop those MOPs from B-2s, whether he wants to do something more extensive like regime change or go after ballistic missiles alongside of the Israeli Air Force. But it deters Iran, and it provides the president options so that within these 2 weeks, he can do what he feels is best for the United States.
Jack, I want to bring you in on this. The big issue in terms of where Iran can retaliate strategically is closing the Strait of Hormuz, and we're going to put that map back up. A quarter of the world's oil supply every day goes through it. How big of a lift, how heavy of a lift is it to keep that shipping lane open for the U.S. Navy, given 21 miles and the amount of anti-ship missiles the Iranians have?
Well, if I'm going into tactical specifics, I would say that a non-nuclear Iran has been a tenet of U.S. foreign policy since 1979. That is about 45 years of preparation. And this is not coming as a surprise that we're going to need to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. So with all of that time to prepare, I am fairly confident that CENTCOM and the United States Navy has plans in place to keep that open in the event of escalating tensions and war with Iran.
New York Times best-selling author because you're able to dream things up. We'd have to imagine that the Israelis, for as wild of their initial successes were, have a couple more magic tricks up their sleeve. If you were writing this spy novel, what are the next chapters?
Well, we've seen it play out. We've seen it play out since October 7th, but more specifically, middle of last summer, let's say July of 2024 onward. Specifically last September, when we have U.S. Special Operations Forces going on a very audacious mission into Syria, using drones as a blocking force, going inside a Hezbollah-guided missile facility there, blowing it up from the inside, and also capturing a couple Iranian scientists in the process, and destroying a Russian listening post, by the way. But from that is almost a proof of concept for what's to come. And once again, Israel has no place to retreat to. They can't be like the French leaving Algeria, going back to France, like the British leaving Kenya or India, going back to the UK. No, they are where they are, and there is no way they're going to allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. So with that proof of concept we saw last September, I would guess that they have made tweaks to that. They've learned from that and are prepared to do the same thing at different nuclear facilities all over Iran.
So that's troops on the ground. We know that they already had some Mossad guys and special forces on the ground in the first couple days of the operation. General, you think about this from a strategic sense, because in your last couple of jobs, you were planning, you were looking at the battlefield differently than just individual attacks. These 2 weeks, does it give an advantage to the Iranians, or does it give an advantage to the Israelis and the Americans?
Leland, I think it's important that the nuance of that comment about 2 weeks is not that the president is going to wait 2 weeks, but it gives him the option within the next 2 weeks to make a decision. We talked about the posture of U.S. military forces. Israel is already dominating the battle space and has air superiority. I think the strategic ambiguity and the posture of American forces gives the president an option whether that's to go tonight or tomorrow or next week or within 2 weeks to do what needs to be done to provide unconditional surrender, which is his current goal.
Well, and look, we have to be real that the Iranians thinking it's going to come anytime in the next 2 weeks is to an advantage for our pilots and others. This is a map that shows you U.S. troops within the range of Iranian missiles, and they still have a lot of missiles left. The Israelis have taken out a lot. But every time we watch one of those wild air shows over Tel Aviv, there's an awful lot of missile interceptors that are being used up. What happens first? Do the Iranians run out of ballistic missiles, or do we in Israel, because we're shooting down the Iranian missiles too, run out of interceptors?
Leland, we assess that Iran is on the tail end of their ballistic missile fleet. They started with 2,000. They now have less than 1,000. And the Iron Dome continues to shoot down 90 to 95% of those missiles. We're bringing in an additional destroyer to the Mediterranean. That provides additional firepower. I think based on the air superiority of the Israelis and the strikes they're providing against those ballistic missiles, that Iran runs out of missiles before Israel runs out of interceptors.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.